Houses, condos or land? Buy, rent or sell? Should we invest now or in the future? The Mix 88.5 Property Update.
Welcome to the Mix 88.5 Property Report with our guest, as always, from Salmons, Thailand, Tim Gladwin.
The Mix 88.5 Property Update.
To avoid some of the rain over the weekend?
Yes, I was very fortunate on Sunday in that my girlfriend told me that the Thai news channels had said that Sukhumvit Road was under a couple of feet of water, and so plans to go to the Jesters Fair were quickly abandoned at that point.
Lucky you, I think a sensible thing. As usual, if you want to get hold of Tim, he's come from Salmons Thailand, www.salmonsthailand.com, or Patia@salmonsthailand is the email. 038252588 is the phone number. Well, I think you were one of several that didn't quite get down to the Jesters Fair at the weekend. It was completely washed out in some cases, but a good laugh, I think, for the kids, because they were, had a swimming pool for a change, and they enjoyed that.
I think we've all been there when you can't get any wetter and it's not too cold, so you can have a great time. And I'm sure that I guess there was a bouncy castle there for the kids, and I'm sure they made the best of it, as kids tend to do.
They did have some fun there. So the floods affected any properties in town that we know about?
Well, I'm sure there are a few places underwater. I mean, certainly, I was speaking to someone the other day, and he tried to make it, I think, to Central on Sunday. Got caught up in a traffic jam that was obviously an inevitable consequence of the rain and the floods, and the water actually came into his Fortuner, which essentially pretty high up off the ground, and similar level to my truck. And certainly when it floods here, I've always found that my truck will, well,
hopefully
just about right above it. Doesn't do the brakes any good, of course, but it's never come into the car. But then again, the rain on Sunday was, I think, a little bit extraordinary, and I'm sure there were a few low-lying houses that found themselves under a little bit of water.
Is there sort of anything you can do on that when you're looking to get a property organised, as apart from saying, well, let's build it on a great big hill or put it high enough over the little bit of surrounding land?
Well, absolutely, and certainly from a personal perspective, when I've been looking at property here to buy in the past, and when I've bought property, I have looked long and hard at exactly where it is, because you don't have to live here very long before you appreciate that when it does rain, flooding and significant flooding comes quite quickly. And obviously, if you are at the bottom of some kind of slope, it's going to cause you problems. This is not the first time it's happened. I've read in the newspaper today, actually the British newspaper, about the escaping crocodiles from the crocodile farm. And the thing that made me laugh was that I can remember very clearly a few years ago when I was here, the exact same thing happened.
I do remember it as well, some years ago, yeah.
And, you would have thought when you're housing thousands and thousands of very large and quite terrifying crocodiles, that if you lost a few in the floods, you might do something about it so it doesn't happen again, but clearly not.
Maybe someone's running around and getting them anyway. It seems like a good thing to do. Okay, so the floods have affected property this week. A couple of other things that we've looked at over the past, going to kick off on first. And speaking of kicking, property seems to be affecting the Rugby World Cup. And I don't mean some people are going over there to buy houses. The one stadium that is indoors and undercover seems to be causing problems with kickers.
Yes, so I understand. I think that a couple of high kicks hit the stanchions up on the roof, didn't they?
Yeah, and everyone else kept missing.
Yeah, but
Johnny Wilkinson, namely, we can slap him later on when I see him and say, Johnny, come on, get a grip, mate.
Yeah, although I think that might have more to do with the ball.
That was the other part of it, yes.
The kickers often say, when they change balls, the characteristics of it change. Obviously, in the Football World Cup, we had a similar situation with the Adidas ball, where players couldn't apparently keep it down, so we had a real shortage of goals from outside the area. And here we go again, seemingly. I mean, I don't know why they just don't play with the same old ball we've been playing with for years.
Surely if you're going to put together a World Cup, an event like that, you can say, well, let's play with a good old standard ball, we know how it rolls, rather than let's introduce a new one right now.
Yeah, it does seem strange. I mean, it really does. It spoiled the Football World Cup, and hopefully it won't do the same with rugby. I mean,
well, they've got enough time; they can go back to the old ball, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I think the other thing is, of course, with rugby, kicking is somewhat a smaller part of the game, and hopefully it won't impact.
Unless it was the England game last week.
Yeah, well, England don't tend to play the best running rugby.
Yeah. Okay, some of those things. One more thing that we've touched on several times over the past, that money does not equal good taste, and I see that has been sort of defined quite nicely with one more of those dictators that has an awful place when they've been inside the Gaddafi residence now. Have you seen those pictures?
No, I must confess I haven't, but certainly what I saw on documentaries after the Iraq invasion, yeah, astonishing how you can spend so much money, and people here in Pattaya do all the time, as we've often said, and just get it so very, very wrong. You know, obviously some people have extreme taste, and that's fine, because, you know, I wouldn't want to criticize anyone's taste, but you can't then be surprised when you can't sell your property easily, or for anything like the money that you would like to sell it for.
Because your taste is awful. Just doesn't mean that your money does not equal taste. Okay, so let's get on to the property report this week, and our subject basically is how's it been going?
Yeah, I mean, it has been a little bit quieter the last week. Obviously, the weather hasn't been great. I think it's fair to say that we've now hit what you might term Pattaya's own rainy season. The rest of Thailand would probably say, well, the rainy season started long ago, perhaps as long ago as May in many cases, and obviously we've been reading an awful lot of headlines from around Thailand as to the dreadful consequences of a particularly nasty monsoon season. I've read in the press the other day that I think 600,000 people have been displaced by the floods. So it's been a really, really tough rainy season. But again, here in Pattaya, we're just getting started. Traditionally, we have a rainy season that lasts about 6 weeks. Obviously, we have rain outside of that, but not the... When I classify a rainy season, it's when you get significant rain on a daily basis. And certainly the rest of Thailand has been having that for a while, as I have experienced on several occasions when I've been going up to Bangkok recently. You know,
it seems that as you get past the hills, or just as you get to the hills before you end up back on the other side of the motorway, it's chucking it down every time I drive up there.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it said that there's some sort of a Gulf Stream down here, and I'm not any kind of expert on geography or rain patterns or anything like that, but the mountains do seem to have an effect, as does the coast. And like you say, when I was driving up to Bangkok on Friday night, I left Pattaya and it was really very nice. By the time I got onto the Highway 7, which starts at about Chonburi, well, the motorway section of Highway 7 is perhaps the best way to put it, the proper way to put it. All of a sudden, gale force winds and heavy rain. By the time I got 15 kilometres down that highway, just past the first toll booth, I experienced some of the worst driving conditions I've ever come across. Absolutely shocking. You couldn't see anything. At one stage, a big lorry on the inside lane obviously went through some standing water, and I couldn't see anything at all for 2 or 3 seconds. And when you go in, you know...
It's amazing that when you get those sort of things that happen, there's always some idiot car that's still going to go screaming down the outside, and with no regard to anything, forget the conditions.
Yeah, it was shocking. It was, you know, in the end, got down to about 60 kilometres an hour, and even at that, you felt like you were risking your life. It was really, really tough. And then I came back Saturday morning, and back to Pattaya, and it was blue sky and really very pleasant. And I was thinking to myself how nice it is to be in Pattaya, where the weather's so much better. And then, of course,
Saturday night happened.
Yes, indeed, which proved that we are now well and truly, I think, in the Pattaya rainy season. But nevertheless, it is only about 6 weeks, and that has actually been borne out as much as anything by the fact that we're just starting to experience the bad weather that others around Thailand have been experiencing now for several months. And much as I don't want to diminish the effect of the floods on Sunday, nevertheless, at least we haven't had any this year before then, or nothing significant, whereas other places have obviously been suffering to a very significant degree.
And not just here. I've seen in the newspapers the other day that the UK had a hurricane. I don't quite think it was a hurricane, but, you know, they were going, oh, no, so it must be a hurricane, because the wind was blowing quite strong.
Yes, I must say, I didn't know, I didn't understand that the UK had hurricanes. I mean, I remember a few years ago when there was that there was a big storm. I was at university, and they didn't even call that a hurricane. I don't remember. I think there was a
Cyclone
guy from,
or tropical storm or something.
Yeah, there was a guy from, was it from Heidi High or something, a comic actor who was in his car and a tree fell and it nearly killed him. It was quite newsworthy at the time.
Heidi High. There's something we haven't heard for a long time.
So one of those terrible English comedies of the
yes, we'll be opening a Butlins holiday camp here sometime soon. Then now, so the floodwaters here were not just local down at the beach area, but they were up in the hills as well. Getting up through Soyo Sam Country Club was a nightmare because that was flooded. Nung Plabuan and all the others in that particular area. Even our office here, they tell me, was the ground floor was flooded. So there must have been a huge amount of rain that was dumped on us over Saturday night, Sunday morning.
It was extraordinary. I couldn't quite believe that it was raining that heavily for that long. Normally when you get a downpour, the downpour lasts for a matter of minutes, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the most, and then you might get steady rain, but you don't tend to get a long downpour. But that's what it was, and the quantity of water pouring down was just incredible. In my house, when I deliberately bought on high ground, and there's a lot of property here that is well positioned so that it doesn't suffer when you do get the heavy rains. And like I say, fortunately, we were in that situation. Nevertheless, some water started coming in at a part of the roof where water's never come in before, and we've had rain since then, and it didn't come in then either. And I can only assume it was just because the rain was so heavy and so prolonged. I know that if a little bit of water finds its way in with some wind, water will actually suck itself through. A capillary effect, I think it's called. I'm sure there are scientists who can tell me if that's right, but it basically sucks it in. And that's why, for example, on windowsills in the West, you have what's called a drip underneath the windowsill, so that the capillary effect can't pull it right into the house. The drip will cause it to fall off, and I can only assume that's what must have happened, because, like I say, it hasn't come in again during the subsequent wet rain. But it's just indicative of quite how ridiculous the situation was. Let's face it, when it does rain in Thailand, it really can
does
rain.
Yes.
But even then, of all the years I've had living here, I can't remember anything quite so significant as that rain on Saturday night and Sunday.
So that big chunk of rain coming down, that's not really going to put things off. Things are still ticking along. There's business being done. People are still buying property, still investing. The low season hasn't died completely yet.
No, absolutely not. And as we've said before, I'm not sure that it does these days. Obviously, it has been a bit of a quiet week. In part, I suppose that's because we are still in low season. In part, it's because it's the traditional rainy season, which I'm sure people who come to Thailand on a regular basis, they've become well aware over the years that September and October are perhaps the best months to avoid when coming here. And more than that, if you're living in Bangkok and it's raining like crazy, maybe you don't come down for the weekend or whatever. People who are here, maybe they're not on the streets as much as they would be if it weren't raining and flooded as it has been. But it's ticking over. There's bits and bobs of business to be done. I'd be lying if I said we've been busy over the last week, but nevertheless, we haven't been completely devoid of customers or completely devoid of business. Certainly, I went in to see Mickey from Matrix Iguana the other day to discuss something that we've got going on, and he was very bullish still, very positive, reporting very good sales still on an ongoing basis. A vast number of units being sold each month, and in fact, I think what he was saying was his biggest problem right now is having enough stock to satisfy the demand that he's got. Dealing with that, he showed me a new project that they're just about to launch, which is going to be launched in Jomtien, on I think about an 8-rai site, and I have to say it was really very, very nice, very much along the lines of what some of the developers are doing these days, which seems to be very much what you might call a resort style development.
Which are some of the nicer ones around town at the moment. I did bump into Mickey as well a couple of weeks back, and he did say he had something under his hat and coming out soon.
Yeah, and it's, he He's literally just got the plans back, and it really does look lovely. You've got, I think, 4 blocks around a huge lagoon-style swimming pool that's on 3 levels, with waterfalls, with beaches, islands, little
Nice.
picnic coves. The roofs, the roof space of the blocks are used, again, they're very green, with salas and massage areas. There's, gymnasium, restaurant, very much a beautiful, beautiful looking project. Obviously, it's only on the basis of perspectives right now, because it's simply not been built. But nevertheless, on paper, it looks really, really nice. And again, they're targeting that area of the market, which has proven to be very successful for them and other developers recently, namely the very small 1-bedroom units, as they've done in Park Lane and Paradise Park. A lot of the 1-bedroom units are around 36 square meters, which does seem very, very small for a 1-bedroom unit as opposed to a studio. But nevertheless, they use the space very efficiently, and what they say is that the most common comment that they get from those investors that buy them is that they are surprised by how big they actually look inside.
Yeah, something we've touched on over the last few months as well, how you use the space the right way around, a small place becomes quite big, or the adverse, the big place becomes quite small. And they've done some good. When Mickey was in here and we talked about some of his developments, he does like to have that nice water feature somewhere, a big pool and gardens and other bits. So I'm thinking, just visualising what you've just said, that it's going to be quite a nice place again.
Yeah, I mean, it really did make me sit up and take notice. It looks fantastic, and it's fair to say that Matrix Iguana, they're very, very good at doing what they say they're going to do, building what they say they're going to build, and building it within the time frame that they promise. These are things that are very much in their favour, and when you're a broker such as I am, and you're looking at projects that you are going to introduce to your clients, obviously these are very, very important considerations, because the last thing you want to do is be involved with something or someone who doesn't necessarily deliver on promises. But
so these units are going to be in that same sort of bracket, they're just above $1 million baht mark again?
Yeah, I think they start at about 1.5 million baht, which obviously is a very reasonable price for a 1-bedroom condo, particularly bearing in mind the quality of the overall development, the resort. It really does look very, very good, really very attractive, and 1.5 million baht, £30,000,
not much these days.
$50,000. Yeah. It's not a lot of money in today's world. Other developers are doing a similar thing. Heights Holdings, they've got quite a similar sort of development again in Jomtien, Laguna. I just watched a movie that they've put together to sort of illustrate what it's going to look like today. Again, the huge lagoon pool, a wave machine with so you've got the waves lapping in on a real sandy beach.
Nice, I like that.
Yeah, again, the islands with the jacuzzis and the sunbathing areas. These are very much condominium developments, but very much in the style of a resort hotel. And you can see the attraction. If you're a tourist or a regular visitor to Thailand or to Pattaya, if you're going to invest in a place, it might be nice to have a place where you can come over, and when you do, you're very much in a resort location. You don't have to go to a hotel.
At the end of the day, if you're going to come over for a period of time, let's say a couple of months every year, by the time you've paid for hotel fees or renting out, it's just as easy to buy one of those.
Absolutely right. I think it's far nicer, certainly for someone such as myself anyway, to have your own place like that rather than a timeshare, which you share with other people and which doesn't quite feel like your own. And actually, even if you're going to come over and use it 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, a year, for the rest of the time, again, with it being in the style of a hotel, a resort, it's entirely the sort of place that you should be able to rent out without too much difficulty for people coming over here as tourists. And certainly Mickey and Iguana are looking to develop that side of it, so you can own a place, and they will organise the rentals and a full sort of hotel service, if you like.
Which is always nice, because I think that the Western market now, the usual 2 weeks of summer holidays is not 2 weeks anymore. It is much, much longer for a lot of people. They do manage to get away for a month at a time or more, which is always nice. And that becomes difficult if you are going to try and sort of sit in a hotel and try and rent a place like that on a daily sort of basis.
Well, I think there's more than one issue. First of all, if you're going to be here for a month or two, actually, do you really want to be in a hotel room? Because hotel rooms tend to be a little bit impersonal, a little bit small. They don't have a kitchen, so you are literally, for however long you're here, you're going out and eating out outside every single time. That's fine for a while, but there does come a stage, I think, when, if you're here for 2 months, it's nice to have a few quiet nights in.
Yeah, a cup of tea, beans on toast in the morning, instead of going down to the restaurant and having to go through the rigmarole of breakfast.
Absolutely. Having a dining table to sit at, as opposed to sitting on the bed with some takeout that you've brought back to the room.
Yeah.
More than that, if you're staying in a hotel for 2 months, even the relatively cheap hotels can start to mount up in terms of the cost. All right, there are some very, very affordable hotel options here in Pattaya, but nevertheless, when you're paying on a daily rate, it tends to work out as far more expensive over an extended period of time than if you're doing either renting somewhere by the month, which is obviously another option, or indeed buying your own place, which hopefully, when you're not using it, could then also provide an income for you.
Which is always nice. Now, there's lots of these ones going up. A Tulip Group are putting up their Centara, and you mentioned there Mickey at Matrix, the Heights Holdings is going up. Is this now what Pattaya is going to be for the foreseeable future, or is things going to change, or are things going to change as the finances change, as the economy gets better?
Yeah, I mean, that is the question. Is this what people will always want in Pattaya, or is this just a product that suits the market right now? And it's not an easy question to answer. What I would say, however, is that obviously Pattaya has done very, very well over the years as a resort, and as a resort, it's grown enormously. I keep on reading about increased tourist numbers, and as we've discussed before, when you look at Thailand and Pattaya, where it is and what it offers, we are a short distance by plane from China and India, the two fastest growing middle classes in the world, and middle classes that have the potential to be far, far bigger than any other middle classes in any other countries in the world. And already you are starting to see interest from India, from China, in Thailand. The place that most of the tourists tend to come to is Pattaya, because it is a little bit of a cheaper resort than many others. And obviously, as you're in the developing middle class, the vast majority of people have got enough money to go overseas. They don't necessarily have enough money to go to the high-end resorts that are very, very expensive. Moreover, Pattaya tends to focus on providing the kind of entertainment and amenities that tend to appeal to exactly that type of individual. So Pattaya is perfectly placed to take full advantage of these growing middle classes, which are located very, very close at hand. And if you consider how many Europeans have come over here, obviously not only are there far more Indians, far more Chinese, but they are far, far closer. You know, it's a 12-hour flight to the UK. Most of India, I think, is 2 to 3 hour flight. China, probably 2.5 to 4.5 hour flights. It's not a long way, and obviously easy for them to get here.
Do you think it could go a different direction, where yes, we like all these properties we've got, and the economy has got better? Actually, I've got a few quid in my pocket now. I'd actually like to have a house, but I think I'll keep that as well, and I could rent it out to my mates, or let my mates come and share it while I have the house, and it's somewhere for my friends to come and visit.
Well, I don't think you'll necessarily, if you own one, you won't necessarily be looking to sell it, because it'll be an investment. And if you're buying one of these resort-style places, be it Centara or Laguna from Heights Holdings, or Amazon from Matrix, what you do, you're effectively, on many levels, you're buying a hotel room, and a hotel room that will, hopefully, with the facilities there, with the pools and the beautiful appearance of the place, and the facilities on site, it will appeal to people as would a hotel. And so the theory is that it will, whether you use it or not, in the future it will create an income for you from renting it out to relatively short-term guests who will come and treat it essentially as a hotel holiday that may be nevertheless a little bit cheaper. And certainly if you've got a one-bed unit as opposed to a hotel room, there's a bit more livability.
So hopefully it's not going to come to the stage in a year or two's time that everyone says, right, we're going to offload all of these now because nobody wants them. We're going for something bigger and better.
Yeah, I would be very surprised with that style of development. If it was just a standard condo that doesn't necessarily have any of those attractions, a sort of quasi-hotel, if you like, then I think there's greater potential for that. With these sorts of places, so long as hotels are doing well here, so long as tourists are still coming, then there's every reason to believe that they'll continue to be successful.
Okay, that's always good. How's about getting 2 or 3 units and putting them together? Because it's not quite big enough for me now, but it's fine now, but in the future, maybe I'll knock them all together and make one large unit. That's still a possibility?
Yes, certainly with Matrix is development. Their designs are, by nature, modular. So while they can be all done as, say, 36 square metre one-bedroom units, equally you can, obviously when you're buying off-plan, you can say, well, actually I want something bigger. And because of the modular design, you can put however many units together, so presumably in factors of 36 square metres, and design something, be it a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom unit, if you like.
Yeah. And they're okay with that, getting
it? Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, that's all good stuff. So some of the new things coming onto the market, everybody's still being upbeat about things and hoping that it's all going to go well. Let's have a quick look at the stock markets, or at least the money markets at the moment. Not much change when we look at the pound. It's dropped just a little bit from last week. Last week was 47.77. This week 47.64. Not too much change there, despite those people bemoaning it in the UK.
Yeah, I think both last week and this week, the point that you would probably make is the pound's not very strong.
Yeah.
It was 50 or thereabouts, and it's now down at just over 47.5, which is not great from the perspective of the British pound and British tourists. It is, however, what we have been saying for some time, that the strong likelihood is that it's not going to go back to 65, 68, 70. We're now in the realm of 50, and if anything, the pound's going to get a little bit weaker before it gets stronger. And even if it does get stronger, the chances are it's not going to get much above 50.
Yeah, I think it was 45 when I first came over, and that was about it for most of the time until the collapse of everything, and then it went up, and now it's back to being sort of back to where it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
45 to 50 range, and that's where I'll stay.
I absolutely. I think that the market will settle down. Prices will adjust to an extent to take account of the stronger baht, but as we've discussed in previous weeks, ever-increasing amounts of manufacturing from around the world are now coming over to Asia and to Thailand in particular, and all of this increases the value of the baht. It's domestically the economy continues to do very well. Obviously, there's an impact from the global issues that continue to worry us all, but nevertheless, domestically, Thailand's not doing bad at all.
Yeah. As always, the euro has diminished again. Nobody really likes that, and when they get rid of it, we'll all be happier. 41.99 last week. It's now 41.27, so it's dropped another chunk, and I think it will continue going that way.
Well, certainly on the news today, they're reporting that everyone seems to believe again that Greece is going to default on the debts. Quite what they've been doing with the hundreds of billions of dollars that has found its way to them, I'm really not sure. Perhaps paying those people who were demonstrating so as to keep them quiet. But
I would imagine if it's anything like when I was working in Greece many years ago, it will be just used for the guys to sit outside of their cafes drinking their beer or coffees through the afternoon and making the women do all the work.
Yeah, I mean, it does make you wonder a little bit. If they're now going to default after they've had, is it 1 or 2 bailouts and hundreds of billions of dollars or euros or whatever, maybe it would have been better just to have let them default in the first place rather than throw good money after bad,
Yes.
which seems to be what has happened.
Which the Germans are not too happy about because they seem to be footing the bill most of the time. The Aussies, they're going down again, as is the US dollar the Aussie dollar going down, the US dollar going up a little bit. The Aussie dollar 31.66 last week to 31.09 this week, dropped a little, and the US dollar has gained a little. It's back up to 30 again after being 29 and a bit for some time. It's now 30.2. So maybe we like the American dollar again.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why, but both of those currencies seem to be bouncing around a little bit at the moment. Certainly the Aussie dollar, it sort of went down to 30, then it was up to 32. Now it's now it's down to 31. I don't know quite why, but it certainly seems to be bouncing around. Perhaps it's currency speculation. I'm really not sure. The US dollar, again, I'm not sure there are too many reasons to be positive about the economy in America right now. And it's not a big change. I guess it's 20 cents, 25 cents change.
Yeah, so it's not much. Maybe it's just a case of Obama was shouting extremely loud on his speech that I heard on the radio this morning. So maybe that's it. The louder I shout, the better the economy becomes. You never know. I've heard that happen in other places too. It's a Wednesday afternoon. It's Mix 88.5, the Property Report. Tim Gladwin is our guest as always. And as we come towards the end of the show, we'll get into our Property of the Week. And we're back into condos again for this one.
Yeah. I thought this was both a very, very nice condo and very sensibly priced. And bearing in mind our discussion last week about the amount of property that is perhaps overpriced, I thought it was worthy of mention. It's in Nova Mirage, which is a nice development in the heart of Wongamut, about, I guess 100 metres or so from the beach. In a good area. It's a quiet area, but nevertheless not inconvenient for getting into town, and a place where there are plenty of shops, restaurants, bars. A good overall, a very, very nice area. One I like a lot. The project has, I think, three or four blocks. Has a very nice swimming pool, gym, and the front of the front building has been developed commercially, so they have restaurants, cafes, massage shops, those sorts of things. Yeah, it's an altogether very nice place. This particular unit has been done up really beautifully. It's sumptuous. Obviously, on radio you can't show the pictures.
No, but sumptuous is a good one. I get the impression from sumptuous. I just think, that's nice. I fancy that myself.
Yeah, it's really nice. In predominantly in dark brown, with a big influence of sort of wood materials used. So not a modern design, more traditional with an Asian flavour. It's 48 square metres, so a very, very good sized, generously proportioned studio. Very nice built-in wardrobes, small European-style kitchen, and generally fitted out very, very nicely. It's for anyone interested to buy it. It's available for purchase in a foreign name, and the asking price is 2.1 million baht. So I guess
reasonable,
that works out just over 40,000 baht per square metre. But the thing that really made me sit up and take notice was the rental. It's available to rent for only 12,500 baht per month, which I thought was, bearing in mind the quality of the development, the quality of the room, the location, exceptional value for money.
That's reasonably good, because Wongamut is the sort of the posh area now, isn't it?
Very much so. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that when it comes to pricing in Pattaya, Wongamut is right up there. Obviously, there's Pattaya Beach Road, North Shore, one or two other developments around there that tend to maintain good prices, but Wongamut is probably the biggest residential area with the highest rates.
Okay, all good stuff. That's about it for this week. Same time, same place next week for another edition of the Property Report. Tim, as always, thanks very much for coming in and seeing us.
Thank you.
If you want to know more about any of those properties, call Tim's office on 038 252 588. The BBC News is on the way next.
Houses, condos or land? Buy, rent or sell? Should we invest now or in the future? The Mix 88.5 Property Update.